Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. That strange little woodland creature that is Michael Gove has been giving evidence at the UK COVID inquiry, and he is also saying what others have said, that the whole of the Scottish exercise over COVID and the pandemic was done for political reasons. It was done to split the UK. There was very little thought going in to protect people. It was all with an ulterior motive. Politicisation and weaponisation of a pandemic to push an agenda. He's been quite clear on that. He wasn't overly critical, but he has made the point that it is obvious to everyone who was dealing with them at the time that that was the sole purpose of everything the SNP were doing. Nothing was done because of scientific reasons or methodologies. It was just done simply so they could be different from England to help push the message that Scotland is different and therefore should be independent. And we know the cost that this has. Many, many more deaths in Scotland, and especially in care homes, where deaths in care homes were 44% higher in Scotland than they were in England, because they wanted to be different. And that's the price that they felt was worth paying. Let's take a look at this to see what little Gove was saying. Here goes. So the SNP's aim is to destroy the UK, as shown by Nicola Sturgeon's COVID pandemic decisions, says Michael Gove. And of course he was right at the heart of everything. He was the one dealing with all the devolved governments in Scotland, Northern Ireland and Wales. And so he was seeing what they were doing. There's no denying that he was involved. He was seeing and he was responding to these people. So his evidence today will be, it's important evidence. It's something that someone who was deeply involved will be able to say. He can give his opinion on it, and you can respect his opinion on this. The UK government minister was giving evidence at the UK COVID inquiry, where he pointed out that some of the correspondence between Liz Lloyd and the former First Minister showed that some decisions were being made to further the independence cause. And we've talked about Liz Lloyd last week when she was talking about wanting a rammy, as she put it, with the UK government, simply to create those divisions and politicise everything. They also had that denial that policy was being made, and Liz Lloyd said, oh no, we were making policy on WhatsApps, and thus utterly destroying what Nicola Sturgeon has previously maintained. And I, for one, cannot wait until Wednesday when that is put to her. It'll be an interesting look on her face, the panic, the fear, knowing that we all know what she is. Anyway, Nicola Sturgeon and the SNP's decisions during the COVID pandemic were sometimes politically motivated, claimed a leading UK government figure, Mr. Gove. He highlighted that the party's main aim was to destroy the UK, and it was always looking for political advantages to do so. Gove, who was often asked to speak to devolved governments on behalf of Boris Johnson's behalf, on behalf of his behalf, I'm putting words in that don't exist, but you understand, gave evidence at the UK COVID inquiry this morning about the relationship between Holyrood and Westminster. And while he refused to be too critical of the nationalists' handling of the virus, he did point out that it was obvious that some policies put forward by the First Minister were simply done just to be different from England. Yeah, I mean, and some of the policies were dangerous. Actually, you can see the image on the right there. There's Hugh Pennington. Hugh Pennington gave them advice and said, God's sake, do this, must do this. And they ignored him. You had Mark Woolhouse, who was actually on the committee, on the COVID committee, an expert, an infectious disease epidemiologist, saying, for heaven's sake, will you listen to me and will you stop doing what you're doing? And they chose not to, because the advice the expert, was given was not what they wanted to hear. Anyway, Gove was grilled about the correspondence between Liz Lloyd and her former boss, where she said she wanted to start a political rammy over furlough pay, which I mentioned earlier. He said that some of the language used by Scottish Government officials led him to believe that there was a desire for differentiation. Now, we'll just put a little tangent in here, and I've said all along, Boris did this wrong. Boris made the mistake of allowing these people the right to deal with their own COVID issues. He failed to realise that these people are psychopaths. and that he should have maintained it all at a UK level and run it out of Cobra rather than letting these people weaponise and do their own thing and make differences. Had anyone been there to tell him, I certainly would have told him, but you wonder why others didn't. He maybe didn't want to make waves. Oh no, if we do this, then it's only going to give them an excuse. Rather than it's an excuse anyway. It's an island. You should have just said, no, bang, we do one single rule. That's it. Across the lot. And not give Sturgeon that ability to do it. Because she did abuse it. Anyway, Gove added that you could see the temptation at certain points to seek political advantage is clearly there within the SNP, given the cause to which they have devoted their lives. And he said some of the language used, the desire to have a good old-fashioned rammy with the UK government, and some of the other language used, which I shan't repeat now, does lead me to believe that at that point there was desires to pursue differentiation for the sake of advancing a political agenda. And he's not the first. We've heard this before, time and time again. This has come up. It is politicisation and weaponisation of the pandemic, and no thought at all to the health or the well-being of the people, physical and mental. He said, I want to take as balanced an approach as I can, paying tribute to her energy, her hard work in seeking to do what was right, while at the same time acknowledging the SNP is a political movement with a clear goal, and its membership and leaders have seldom missed an opportunity in other times to seek differentiation to advance their cause. All the time. It's everywhere. You know, if you open a door left-handed, they'll be going, oh, look, that's big. We do it in Scotland. We do it in the right hand, and that's got to be, you know, and they will do that, literally. That cup's half empty. And Scotland will be half full. That's a case for independence. That's where they're at. Anyway, lead counsel Jamie Dawson asked him about Miss Lloyd's excuse for using that language, in that she claimed it was to bring into public consciousness the difficulties the Scottish Government was having in regards to accessing furlough funding. Well, it's simple. You want to be different, you be different. Don't then moan that things are different. Day one, you should have said, no, we will do it the same as England. But you didn't, and you crashed, and you burnt, and nobody wants to admit that that's the case. Mr. Gove simply said, I will leave to fair-minded observers to figure out what was right. The Tory minister also asked if there was a completely dysfunctional relationship between both governments at times, and whether the Scottish Executive was politically motivated in most of the decisions he made. He disagreed with the point. He said, however, there were and are occasions when the Scottish Government was thinking politically, as we can see, and of course it is the case that the SNP has a political mission to achieve Scotland's independence, that is to say, to destroy the United Kingdom, and it would be naive not to be aware that highly skilled politicians, including those at the top of the government, might well see what they would perceive to be political advantage at certain points. If he can see it and knew it, why on earth did they allow Sturgeon to control the narrative? You should have gone day one, this is a national emergency, this will be run from Westminster, and that's it. And she can stamp her tiny, angry little feet as much as she likes, but there would be precisely the square root of bugger all that she could have done with it. And it would have really annoyed her. And I think that would have brought a lot of joy to most people, seeing a little scrunched up face, whinging, the wee whingy bairn of a face, would it? Anyway, there Gove, you strange creature. But we will say that he was deeply involved, and the evidence he gives is fair evidence. I think he showed a bit of restraint, really, in giving it. He probably felt far different, but didn't want to come across as being a bit of a tosser. But I will say it's a bit late for that, Michael. Anyway, I shall round off there. We'll come up and we'll finish the video. Now, you don't expect much from politicians. They are all an awful bunch, really. But certainly someone with political nous sitting around Boris Johnson should have said, for heaven's sake, don't give Nicola Sturgeon these powers. She will undoubtedly abuse them. And then she did. Not a surprise. But everyone's seeing it. Govey's seen it. You know, we've all seen it. You've all seen it. Everyone's seen it. The only people who won't admit it, of course, are the mad SNP supporters, because the SNP can do no wrong, apparently. Even when 44.5% more people die in Scottish care homes than English ones. But we know why that is, don't we? Thank you very much for watching. Do please hit that subscribe button, ring that bell, leave a like, leave a comment, please share the video, and until next time, stay safe, stay well, and I will speak to you later. Bye.